Set in the city of Jaipur, India, the film opens with a housewife named Rani. One afternoon around 4 p.m., she's outside feeding stray dogs in front of her house when a massive explosion suddenly tears through the place. The blast comes from the kitchen and kills her husband, Rishu. In the middle of the chaos, a severed hand with Rani's name tattooed on it is thrown outside. Rani immediately breaks down in tears, completely devastated by what just happened. A few hours later, once the fire is finally under control, the police begin investigating the scene. The kitchen is completely burned out, and Rishu's body is so badly charred that only parts of his skull and ribs remain. But something feels off. There is a wound on the skull that looks like it may have been caused by a blunt object before the explosion even happened. And strangely, the only part of the body still intact is the severed hand that was blown outside. Because of that, the police quickly decide this was not an accident. Someone most likely planned it, and now they need to find the murder weapon. And this is where it begins. This is Haseen Dilruba. For the next 2 months, Rani is repeatedly called in by the head of Jaipur police, Kishore. He has a strong gut feeling that Rani is the one who killed her husband. But every time she is questioned, she gives the same answer. She says she is innocent and insists she is not the killer. Kishore grows more and more frustrated, especially because Rishu seemed like such a loving husband. The kind of man who even tattooed his wife's name on his hand. Wanting to understand what kind of marriage they actually had, Kishore asks Rani to tell the story from the very beginning. So the film goes back 6 months earlier, when Rishu is brought by his parents, Brijraj and Lata, to meet a woman named Rani for an arranged marriage. If they get along, the two families hope they can get married. But Rishu is an extremely quiet and awkward guy who has never even dated before. On top of that, he still has not moved on from a woman his mother introduced to him 2 years earlier, even though she already rejected him. Rishu works as an engineer for a company in Jaipur, while Rani is a postgraduate in Indian literature who works as a salon manager just to fill her free time. She lives in the much bigger city of New Delhi. At first, Rishu is not excited at all. He assumes Rani will be just like any other woman, and his heart is still stuck in the past. But the moment they arrive and he sees Rani looking at him from the window, he freezes. Suddenly, he is nervous and completely caught off guard. The two families sit down and make polite small talk. Rani's mother proudly says that Rani cooked all the food being served, that she is good at sewing, and basically describes her as the perfect woman. Meanwhile, Rani's aunt takes one look at Rishu and immediately approves of him, seeing him as a decent and simple man. Not long after that, Rani's aunt asks Rishu to go into the kitchen so he and Rani can talk alone. Even though Rishu is shy, stiff, and easily intimidated, Rani is the total opposite. She is confident, relaxed, and easy to talk to. She tells him that she loves reading crime novels, while Rishu shares that he enjoys helping people in his neighborhood fix broken electronics in his spare time, since engineering is clearly his thing. The moment she hears that, Rani immediately asks him for a favor to fix the kitchen fan that has been broken for a long time. After returning to Jaipur, Rishu goes back to his usual routine, working during the week and spending his weekends helping neighbors fix their broken electronics. His only close friend there is Afsar. Over time, Rishu and Rani grow closer and begin to fall for each other, especially since Rishu is drawn to Rani's beauty and her unique personality. They stay in touch constantly, chatting often. At one point, Rani even sends him her favorite crime novel, written by Dinesh Pandit, titled The Wrath of Kasauli. Rishu, completely smitten, goes as far as tattooing Rani's name on his wrist. Not long after that, the two of them get married. After the wedding, Rani moves to Jaipur, but instead of feeling excited, she feels a bit disappointed. She sees how other newly married couples are welcomed with celebrations, music, and lively gatherings, while her own arrival is quiet, with only Rishu's family there to greet her. That night, when they are about to share their first intimate moment, things take an awkward turn. A sudden strong wind forces the balcony door open, rain pours into the room, and the whole mood is ruined. Rani ends up going to sleep instead. The next morning, Rani wakes up very late, almost around 11 a.m. Lata can only watch in silence. Instead of helping with cooking or household chores, Rani casually reaches for the teapot, only to find it empty. Rishu offers to make fresh tea, but Lata immediately stops him, pointing out that it should be Rani's responsibility. That is when the truth finally comes out. Rani cannot cook at all. She cannot even make tea. Cheerfully, she explains that her mother exaggerated everything and that all those skills actually belong to her mother, not her. This sparks a small argument between her and Lata, which Rishu quickly ends by making the tea himself. That night, they try again to get closer. Aside from fixing machines, Rishu also has an interest in homeopathy, so he takes some herbal remedies. Ronnie dresses up and tries to set the mood, but once again, things fall apart. Instead of focusing on her, Rishu brings up the first woman he was introduced to in the past, which immediately upsets Ronnie. The next day, Rishu goes to the market, while Ronnie spends her time offering to groom Brijraj by dyeing his hair and eyebrows. Only he agrees while Lata gets annoyed, seeing her daughter-in-law more focused on salon-style activities than helping in the kitchen. As a friend, Afzar advises Rishu to be more assertive and take control, suggesting he give Ronnie a proper schedule for managing the household. On the other side, Ronnie's mother and aunt give her completely different advice. They tell her to control her emotions, flirt more often, and wear outfits that might attract Rishu. The next day, Rishu decides to follow Afzar's advice. But the moment he sees Ronnie dressed in a very bold and attractive outfit, he becomes completely flustered. Still, he gathers the courage to ask her to prepare breakfast at 9 while she's outside hanging clothes. Meanwhile, Ronnie keeps trying to tease and flirt with him, but his reactions are not what she expects. Lata even scolds her for behaving that way in broad daylight. After the first step of trying to be more assertive, Afzar pushes Rishu to take things further. He tells him to become more confident and passionate in their private life. That very night, Rishu decides to try again. Using his knowledge of homeopathy, he even prepares a kind of herbal boost, though it does not seem to help much. Ronnie gets ready as well, dressing up and wearing perfume. But when Rishu comes out of the bathroom, his nervousness takes over again. He immediately hides under the blanket. Ronnie tries to stay patient and continues to encourage him, even asking him to help with small things like unhooking her dress. For a moment, it feels like things might finally work out. But once again, Rishu's panic ruins everything. He moves awkwardly, accidentally bumps into her, gets tangled in her clothes, and cannot figure out what to do. The whole situation becomes messy and uncomfortable. In the end, the moment completely falls apart.
I'll come over to this side. My leg.
Is it bleeding?
No. Yeah.
Rishu's lack of confidence leaves Ronnie feeling frustrated and deeply stressed. The next morning, Ronnie's mother and aunt call again, asking how her night went. Ronnie admits that things did not go well. She feels that Rishu rushed everything, making the moment uncomfortable. She also explains that she already followed their advice to spark his passion, but nothing worked. At that point, Ronnie starts feeling trapped in the small town of Jawalapur, and she begins to believe there is no real attraction left between them. What she does not realize is that Rishu hears everything while he is in the bathroom. Frustrated and hurt, Rishu vents to Afzar, but instead of fueling his anger, Afzar tells him not to take it too seriously, suggesting that maybe Ronnie was just joking. Even though he is still on leave after the wedding, Rishu decides to go to work that day just to get out of the house. When he comes back, he has no appetite and goes straight to sleep without even acknowledging Ronnie. Seeing Ronnie feeling down the next morning, she tries to make things better by offering to prepare breakfast. But Rishu refuses, saying he is not in the mood to eat. In fact, he avoids her completely, spending the entire day with Afzar on the rooftop. That night, Ronnie turns off the bedroom lights, making it seem like she has gone to sleep. But she is actually waiting for him, hoping to talk. When Rishu finally comes in, she asks if he has grown tired of her. At that point, Rishu admits that he overheard her conversation with her family. He asks her what kind of man she really wants. Ronnie answers honestly. She says she wants someone funny, confident, a little mischievous, sometimes wild and full of passion. Hearing that, Rishu bitterly remarks that she would need 5 or 6 different men to match all those qualities. He then apologizes for not being able to meet her expectations. He tells her that starting the next day, he will focus on his work and also attend business classes after office hours. From that moment on, their relationship begins to fall apart. The distance between them grows and their marriage becomes increasingly cold. Ronnie spends most of her time alone in the bedroom, reading her favorite crime novels by Deans Pandit, while Rishu comes home late from work and classes, then goes straight to bed. Whenever Ronnie tries to start a conversation, Rishu avoids her. Eventually, Ronnie becomes so bored and restless that she starts going out alone to explore the city. One day on her way back, she passes by the place where Rishu attends his business classes and sees him with another woman. Without hesitation, she approaches them. Rishu explains that the woman is just a fellow student and that they were only talking. But Ronnie does not believe him. She points out that they have only been married for a month, yet he already seems like a man who gives up too easily over small problems. Not long after that, Ronnie asks her mother for permission to return to New Delhi for a few days. Her mother reassures her that problems like this are normal in marriage. Besides, her mother is about to visit her own sister for a week, and Ronnie and Rishu were supposed to go on their honeymoon anyway. When Rishu comes home, Ronnie brings up the honeymoon plans. But instead of responding calmly, Rishu tears up the plane tickets and hotel reservations. He declares that the trip is canceled because he is still upset about being accused of cheating. Naturally, the argument between them escalates even further. One day, a new figure enters their lives. Rishu's cousin Neil comes to stay with them during the summer. He works as a tour guide and often travels across India. This time, he is in Jabalpur to guide rafting trips on the river. Unlike Rishu, Neil is confident, physically strong, and naturally charismatic. That same night, when Rishu returns home, Neil greets him and quickly senses that something is not right between Rishu and Ronnie. The next morning after Rishu leaves for work, Neil casually talks to Ronnie from the balcony while she is reading her favorite crime novel. It turns out Neil is also familiar with those books. Slowly, Ronnie begins to feel drawn to him. At one point, she even secretly takes a photo of Neil, though he notices. The following day, Ronnie watches Neil while he is exercising. Later, Neil asks her to make some tea. Without hesitation, Ronnie heads to the kitchen, only to find that Rishu is still there. She offers him tea as well. Since it is her first time making it, Rishu patiently guides her through the process. When it is done, he praises the taste. But as soon as Rishu leaves for work, Ronnie pours the tea into another cup and gives it to Neil instead. Neil takes a sip and compliments her, saying it tastes great, and even suggesting that her cooking must be just as good. That simple praise motivates Ronnie to start learning how to cook. Lada is pleased to see this change, unaware that Ronnie's efforts are meant to impress Neil. Not long after, Neil invites both Ronnie and Rishu to go rafting. During the trip, strong waves cause Ronnie to fall, and Neil quickly saves her. The moment leaves a strong impression on her. Later, while Ronnie is baking, Neil gently adjusts her hair so it does not block her view. That small gesture stirs something inside her. Conflicted and overwhelmed, Ronnie goes to Neil's room and tells him not to touch her again. But the tension between them only grows. Neil pulls her closer, and in the heat of the moment, Ronnie gives in. They cross the line and end up sleeping together. Soon after, Lada calls Ronnie because she forgot to turn off the stove, forcing her to return downstairs. That night during dinner, the whole family eats food prepared by Ronnie. Once again, Neil praises her cooking and even requests goat curry, which she eagerly agrees to make. Ronnie goes to the market to buy goat meat, even though she is a vegetarian. Since Lada does not want the kitchen to smell, Rishu converts a storage room into a temporary cooking space for her. This small, improvised kitchen will later become the place where Rishu is believed to have died. After hearing Ronnie's story, especially about her affair with her own cousin-in-law, Kishore becomes even more convinced that she is manipulative and dangerous. In his mind, there is no doubt that Ronnie and Neil must have worked together to kill Rishu. He believes that once he finds the missing piece of evidence, Ronnie will finally end up in prison. That same day, Ronnie is called back to the police station. At the same time, Afsar is also there giving his statement. The moment he sees Ronnie, he loses control and accuses her and Neil of burning his best friend alive. He begs Kishore to lock her up immediately. When it is finally Ronnie's turn to be questioned, Kishore looks straight at her and presses on the key point. He wants to know if the murder of Rishu was something she planned together with Neil. The story then shifts back into another flashback. Neil invites Ronnie to take a photo together in his room and casually mentions that he will be returning to New Delhi the following week. Without hesitation, Ronnie says she will go back to New Delhi as well, just so she can stay with him. She plans to tell Rishu the truth, that she is in love with Neil. After that, she continues cooking the goat curry with full effort, wanting to make it perfect for him. But just as the dish is finally ready, Ronnie learns from Lada that Neil has already left the house, taking all of his belongings without saying goodbye. The news shocks her. She feels deeply hurt and abandoned. In her mind, it becomes clear that Neil never intended to commit to anything, and that she was nothing more than a temporary escape for him. Memories of everything they shared start flooding back. Not long after, Rishu returns home. Ronnie serves him the goat curry with a distant expression. Meanwhile, Rishu is genuinely happy to see her making an effort, especially in cooking. He admits that he has always been nervous around her because of how beautiful she is. He apologizes for everything that has happened and expresses his desire to start over. But the moment turns bitter. Ronnie confesses that she has fallen in love with Neil. She even admits that the dish she made was meant for him, not for Rishu. And now Neil has simply left her behind. Rishu is completely shattered by the truth. Still, he continues eating in silence, unable to say a single word. The next morning, Neil is seen removing the contact lenses he had been using to change his appearance around Ronnie, returning to his usual look with glasses. Meanwhile, overwhelmed with emotions, Rishu dives into the river, trying to calm himself. Soon after, he decides to travel to New Delhi by bus to confront Neil. The moment he spots Neil stepping out of his place, Rishu attacks him with a screwdriver. But Neil, being much stronger, quickly overpowers him and beats him badly.
Listen to me. Fine.
Seeing that Rishu is still there, Neil eventually takes him to a nearby coffee stall to settle things. There, Neil admits that he was attracted to Ronnie, but what happened between them was a mistake, driven by her loneliness. Rishu, on the other hand, feels humiliated. He believes Neil must see him as a weak man, whose wife could be taken so easily. In a moment of bitterness, Rishu even suggests that Neil should have just taken Ronnie with him, so at least they could have been happy together. When Rishu returns home, Ronnie is already waiting. She has been calling him repeatedly, but he never answered. She apologizes for everything she has done. Rishu reflects on how deeply he once loved her, how he could not imagine living without her. But now what she did has crossed every limit. The pain is too much. In the end, he tells her to go back to New Delhi. He cannot stand the sight of her anymore. The anger inside him has grown so strong that even being near her feels unbearable. The next day, Brijraj and Lata leave to visit relatives, while Ronnie finishes packing her things to return to New Delhi. Rishu does not even help her carry her luggage. As Ronnie waits outside looking for a rickshaw, a group of men, Neil's friends, start harassing her. It turns out Neil had told them about his relationship with her. Not long after, Rishu arrives and immediately steps in to protect her, telling her to go back inside. As he tries to find a ride for her, the group mocks him and humiliates him, even making inappropriate suggestions about Ronnie. Hearing all of this, Ronnie breaks down. She realizes how badly she has messed up, and now Rishu is the one paying the price. In that moment, Ronnie picks up her suitcase again and makes a decision. No matter what happens, no matter how much Rishu hurts her in return, she will not leave him. On the other side, Rishu is still deeply wounded. He cannot forget the betrayal, especially now that everyone around them knows about it. Slowly, he begins to change. He starts smoking, drinking, and losing himself. Eventually, he begins taking out his pain on Ronnie. He sets small traps to hurt her, like placing slippery sheets on the stairs to make her fall, or tampering with the stove so it flares up and burns her hands. Even though Ronnie can now see something dark in his eyes, she does not resist. To her, this is the consequence of her own actions. In fact, her feelings for Rishu only grow stronger. She becomes fully devoted to him, willing to risk her life if needed. She even reflects on a line from her favorite author, Danes Pandit, that true love is often stained with a little blood in order to survive. As she tells this story, not only Kishore, but the entire police station listens closely, completely absorbed. One night, Ronnie approaches Rishu while he is on the rooftop, drinking and smoking with Afsar. Rishu vents his frustration, explaining how he tried to be a good husband, only to be betrayed by his own wife with his cousin, and now everyone knows. Afsar, unable to handle the situation, tells him to go to sleep since he is too drunk, then leaves. After that, Ronnie speaks from the heart. She feels that it would be easier if he just killed her instead of continuing to punish her like this. But Rishu cannot do it. Through tears, Ronnie sincerely apologizes for everything. She does not want to lose a good man like him. She begs him to love her again, even if only a little, and to give their relationship another chance. The next day, things begin to change. Their relationship slowly starts to heal. Rishu still has not fully accepted her, but Ronnie keeps trying her best to become a good wife. She prepares his meals, makes tea, and gets everything ready for his workday. She even grows closer to Lata, taking care of her and sharing stories from the novels she loves. Little by little, feelings return. For the first time, they go out together like a real couple. But on their way back, they unexpectedly run into Neil, who is dropping off his new girlfriend. The moment Ronnie sees him, she is overwhelmed with anger and immediately damages his motorcycle mirror. Later, after dropping off the girl, Neil shamelessly tries to approach Ronnie again and even offers her a ride. This time, Rishu snaps. He chases Neil down and crashes into his bike. Seeing Rishu's sudden boldness, Neil panics and runs away. And in that moment, Ronnie finds herself falling even deeper in love with her husband. Afterward, while their car is being repaired at a workshop, Rishu and Ronnie share an intense and impulsive moment of intimacy in the mechanic's room, luckily with no one around. Once they are done, they head home in a small rickshaw, as their car is still not ready. Back in the present, Kishore and his team arrive at Ronnie's house to reconstruct what really happened on the day of the explosion. Based on a neighbor's testimony, Neil was seen arriving at the house around 3 p.m. About 15 minutes later, Rishu came home. Not long after that, Ronnie left the house and asked a young girl nearby to remind Rishu to close the door. However, the child later tells the police that it was actually Neil who closed the door. After leaving, Ronnie takes a rickshaw to the market to buy goat meat. The rickshaw driver confirms that she was with him for about an hour, from around 3:15 to 4:15 p.m. He drops her off in front of the house, and before leaving, he notices her feeding stray dogs with pieces of goat meat. Moments later, the explosion happens. From his perspective, there is no way Ronnie could have killed her husband, since she was clearly outside the house at the time. Even after hearing multiple testimonies, Kishore is still not convinced. If Ronnie did not kill Rishu before going to the market, then why did she leave him alone with Neil in the house? To Kishore, something still does not add up. He remains certain that Ronnie is the mastermind, no matter how cleverly she has confused everyone. Soon after, Kishore receives news about an important piece of evidence. On the day of the explosion, there happened to be a Clean India campaign nearby, with several officers stationed on a bridge recording the surroundings. After the explosion, one of them captured footage of a man jumping into the river. Although the video is blurry, they believe the man is Neil. He is wearing the same hat and jacket described by the neighbor and the young girl. This only strengthens Kishore's belief that Ronnie and Neil were working together, and that Neil escaped by swimming through the river. At the same time, Kishore's superior puts pressure on him to wrap up the case within 2 days. The department has spent too much time on what is seen as a minor case, while more serious crimes are waiting. Ronnie is called back to the station once again. She is shown the video and questioned about where Neil might have gone, but her answer does not change. Just like the past 2 months, she claims she has no idea. Frustrated, Kishore orders a female officer to beat her until she confesses, demanding to know where Neil is and where the murder weapon has been hidden. Hours pass, but Ronnie continues to give the same response. She says she knows nothing. Eventually, she is allowed to go home, and her in-laws are deeply concerned when they see her condition. With permission secured for a lie detector test, Ronnie is summoned again the next morning. The test will be conducted by a technician named Mishra, but before it begins, Ronnie asks to go to the restroom. There, she quickly drives a small nail into her shoe, letting it press into her foot. The constant pain keeps her heart rate elevated, making it harder for the machine to detect any changes, no matter what questions are asked. When the test begins, Ronnie is asked to describe in detail what happened on the day of the explosion. She explains that earlier that morning, Brijraj and Lada had gone out to attend an event. Rishu was planning to invite his office friends over that night, while Ronnie was preparing to cook goat meat for them. Rishu was supposed to buy the ingredients after work, but according to her story, Rishu came home earlier than expected and found Neil already there. Wanting to talk privately, Rishu asked Ronnie to leave so they could discuss things alone. That is when Ronnie went to the market to buy the meat, and by the time she returned, the explosion had already happened. That is the version of events she gives during the test. Her plan to outsmart the machine works perfectly. Because of the nail in her shoe, her heart rate stays consistently high and steady throughout the process. This makes it difficult for Mishra to draw any clear conclusions, so he decides to change his approach and switch to simple yes or no questions. As the next round begins, Ronnie's discomfort becomes noticeable, and the female officer discovers the nail hidden inside her shoe. Kishore grows irritated, but now there is no more room for tricks. This time, the questions are direct and precise. Ronnie admits to having an affair with Neil. When asked if Neil killed Rishu, she says she does not know. And when asked if she killed her husband, she says no. The results come back clear. Every answer she gives is truthful. With that, Kishore's superior orders the case to be closed immediately. The police department needs to move on to more pressing matters. Reluctantly, Kishore has no choice but to release Ronnie, even though his instincts still tell him that she is somehow involved. After signing the necessary documents, Ronnie finally walks free. That moment marks the last time she sets foot in the police station. 5 years later, Kishore has been transferred to another city. He is about to board a train with his wife and child. Before getting on, he stops to buy a bottle of water and notices a book being sold at a nearby stall. It is a novel by Dean Pandit titled The Wrath of Kasauli. Seeing it instantly reminds him of Ronnie, especially the quote she often mentioned about love being stained with a few drops of blood. During the train journey, Kishore decides to read the novel, passing the time as the story slowly unfolds in his hands. The story then shifts to what really happened on the day of the explosion. Rishu returns home after buying the cooking ingredients Ronnie asked for, but the moment he steps inside, he is shocked to find Neil already there. It turns out Neil has come to clear things up, claiming that his affair with Ronnie was mutual and not forced in any way. He even goes further, bragging about how enjoyable it was and suggesting that Ronnie must still be thinking about him. It is clear that Neil is deliberately provoking them and trying to disrupt their marriage. Ronnie firmly states that what happened between them was the biggest mistake of her life, but Neil does something even worse. He shows a video of their affair, secretly recorded without Ronnie's knowledge. Calm and shameless, he makes it clear that he wants to experience it again. He even threatens to upload the video online, knowing it would expose Ronnie and attract unwanted attention from others. At that point, Rishu loses control. In a burst of anger, he grabs a pan and attacks Neil. But Neil is physically stronger and easily overpowers him, throwing him down and choking him. And then, in a sudden turn of events, Neil is killed instantly. Ronnie strikes him with a frozen goat leg she had stored in the freezer, hitting him with enough force to end his life. Ronnie panics immediately. Realizing what she has done, she wants to call the police, but Rishu quickly calms her down, reminding her that this was not intentional. He refuses to let her face the consequences alone. By now, their relationship has already begun to heal, and Rishu is not willing to lose her again. So instead of confessing, he decides to protect her at any cost. They move Neil's body into the kitchen. At that moment, Rishu recalls something from the only novel he has ever read, the same book Ronnie once sent him, The Wrath of Kasauli by Dean Pandit. The story suggests that even an unplanned crime can be hidden if handled cleverly. Rishu becomes convinced that they can get away with this and still live together. He begins putting together a plan. He prepares a grill and a gas cylinder while asking Ronnie to gather ice and kerosene. Then comes the most extreme part. Rishu cuts off Neil's left hand. After that, he prepares to cut off his own left hand, first numbing it with ice. Ronnie cannot bring herself to do it, so Rishu does it himself, nearly passing out from the pain. Once he regains consciousness, Ronnie quickly cleans up the blood. Rishu's severed hand, the one with Ronnie's name tattooed on it, is carefully wrapped in a wet cloth so it will not burn. Meanwhile, Neil's body is covered in kerosene to ensure it burns completely. Before they separate, they share a final embrace. They make a plan to meet again in another city once everything is safe. After that, Ronnie takes the murder weapon, the goat leg, and heads to the market. There, she cuts it into smaller pieces, which she later uses to feed the stray dogs, erasing any trace of what really happened. On the other side, Rishu puts on Neil's jacket and hat, fully taking on his appearance. He then burns the novel The Wrath of Kasauli on the grill, almost like a symbol of their plan, inspired by the very story inside the book that convinced him they could get away with everything. Despite being badly injured, Rishu makes his way toward the river. At the same time, Ronnie is outside feeding stray dogs, just as witnesses would later describe. The fire inside the house grows stronger and eventually reaches the gas cylinder, which Rishu had already loosened, triggering a massive explosion. At the exact moment of the blast, Rishu jumps into the river, making sure he is seen by the police station nearby on the bridge. That recording becomes key evidence, making it look like the man escaping is Neil. Meanwhile, the body left behind in the kitchen is assumed to be Rishu, especially since his severed hand with Ronnie's name is found there. Back in the present, as Kishore reads the novel, he reaches its ending, which tells of a man whose love and sacrifice disappear with him into the river. That is when everything finally clicks. Kishore realizes he has been completely fooled. Ronnie switched Neil's body and manipulated the entire case, while Rishu sacrificed his own hand just to protect her. Hearing this, Kishore's wife finds it hard to believe. To her, it sounds impossible that any man in today's world would go that far for love. In the final moments, Ronnie is seen living freely in another city, finally reunited with the one she truly loves, Rishu. So the moral of the story is never underestimate a quiet engineer with a crime novel and a freezer, because love can turn into DIY crime tutorial real quick.